Prepare for a prediction and a reveal that no one sees coming. So, grab a deck, hit subscribe for more confidence building tricks, and let's deliver a double miracle. Okay, so as ever, let's just kickstart by taking a look at the effect itself, a true double mystery. And we're going to start with a shuffled deck. So just hand the cards to a spectator. They can shuffle those as much as they like. And also, just for good measure, you can take the cards and just give them a quick shuffle yourself. We now want the spectator to make a totally random selection. So you're just going to take the deck here and you're going to ask the spectator just to remove a random packet of cards from around the middle of the deck, anywhere that they like and any number they like. It's a totally free choice. Now you're going to look away as they do this so that you can't see how many cards they remove. But let's say they remove this packet just here. With yourself still looking away, you're now going to ask the spectator to silently count the number of cards they've removed in order to generate a random number. So in this instance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ask the spectator to remember that number. In this instance, the number 8. You're now going to ask the spectator to lose those cards back into the deck just by placing them on top of the deck and then giving the deck any number of cuts that they like. It's a totally free choice. So let's say they cut the deck just there. At this point, you can turn back around towards the cards and you can just emphasize to the spectator that they really have generated a totally random number. You're now going to ask the spectator to use that number in order to select a card. So you're just going to ask the spectator to take the deck and just to deal cards face up into a pile on the table until they get to the card at the position corresponding to their secret number. So in this instance, the 8th card. So the spectator will just deal and silently count cards to the table. Now, once again, you're going to look away so that you can't see anything. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so the spectator is going to remember this card, the 8th card, as their selected card. Here we can see the 3 of diamonds. Now you can explain to the spectator that once they've got to their card, if they like, they can deal a few more cards, any number of cards they like, just to disguise it as much as possible. So let's say they deal a few more cards, like so. And once they're happy, ask the spectator to take all of the dealt cards and just place them back on top of the deck. Now, in order to make sure their selected card really is lost, you're now going to invite the spectator to cut the deck once again as many times as they like. And the spectator really can cut the deck wherever they like and as many times as they like. And once the spectator is happy, you're going to turn back around towards the cards. At this point, you can just emphasize with the spectator that they have selected a totally random card which is now lost in the deck. There's absolutely no way that you could know the identity of the card or the position of that card. However, you're now going to see whether you can identify that card just by looking through the deck and picking up on the spectator's thoughts. So ask the spectator now just to really clearly think of their card, to picture it in their mind as you take a look through the cards. Okay, so let's see here. Ask the spectator to make sure they're really clearly picturing their card. Okay, interesting. You can explain that you are picking up on something. It's slightly unusual, but you definitely are picking up on something. You're sensing something. Okay, you're just going to place the cards back down on the table. And you're just going to take a piece of paper or a card and a pen, and you're just going to note down exactly what you just picked up. And once you've done that, you can just place that down on the table. At this point, you can just quickly recap exactly what's happened. From a shuffled deck, the spectator selected a random number of cards in order to generate a random number, and that number was used to select one single card. And that card has been lost back in the deck. There's no way that you could have known the number, the card, or where that card now is. You've now tried to identify that card just by asking the spectator to think of it. You can now explain that what you picked up wasn't a whole card. In fact, it may have been part of the card or even something else, but what you've noted down is a single number. Out of interest, for the very first time, now ask the spectator to name the secretly generated number. Of course, in this instance, it was the number 8. And you can now reveal that that just happens to be the exact number you've noted down. Now that's interesting, but you can remind the spectator that you said you're going to try to find their selected card. You can explain that this number here must have some kind of significance, otherwise you wouldn't have picked up on it. And actually, maybe it can lead us directly to the selected card. So you're just going to take the deck here and deal down to that number, the number 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, placing the final card to the side. For the very first time, you can now ask the spectator to name their selected card. Of course, in this instance, it was the 3 of diamonds. And now you can reveal that this card right here just happens to be the 3 of diamonds. Okay, so let's take a look at the secret to this effect. So we really do start with a shuffled deck. So just hand the cards to a spectator and they can shuffle those as much as they like. Now, as you take the deck back, you're just secretly going to note the bottom card here. Here we can see the 2 of spades, and you're going to remember this card as one of your key cards. You're now just going to shuffle the deck yourself using an overhand shuffle to shuffle the bottom card to the top of the deck. So just as follows, shuffling off cards like so, with the last few cards being shuffled individually. So the bottom card, the 2 of spades, is now on top. As you square up the deck, you're also just secretly going to note the new bottom card. So here we can see the 8 of diamonds. And you're just going to remember the top card, the 2 of spades, and the new bottom card, the 8 of diamonds, as your primary key cards. You're now going to take the deck, and as you turn your head away so that you can't see, you're just going to ask the spectator to remove a random number of cards from around the middle of the deck. Preferably a small packet, but it really is a free choice. They can remove any number. So let's say they remove these cards just here. Ask the spectator to count the number of cards they just removed. So in this instance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and to remember that number. Ask them now to place these cards back on top of the deck. You can now invite the spectator to cut the deck as many times as they like. Once the spectator is happy, you're now going to ask them to take the deck and to deal cards into a face-up pile on the table to the card at a position corresponding to their secret number. So in this instance, the 7th card. Now, as the spectator does this, you just secretly need to note the identity of the first card dealt. So here we can see the 8 of hearts, and you're just going to remember this card as your second key card. And once you've remembered this card, you can look away as the spectator continues to deal cards. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Once they reach their selected number, ask the spectator to remember the card. So here we can see the 4 of hearts. You can also just invite the spectator to continue dealing any more cards on top of their selection, just to hide any clues around where it might be. So let's say they deal a few more cards, like so. And once they're happy, ask them to take all of the dealt cards and place these back on top of the deck. You can now invite the spectator once again just to give the deck as many cuts as they like. You're now going to take the deck with a view to identifying the spectator's card. Now, the first thing you're going to do here is just to look for your primary key cards. So remember, in this instance, they were the 2 of spades and the 8 of diamonds. And once you've found those 2 cards, you're just going to count the number of cards in between them in order to identify the spectator's secret number. So here we can see the 2 of spades. So starting with the next card, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and stopping once we get to the 8 of diamonds. So we now know the spectator's secret number is the number 7. The next thing you're going to do is just to look for your second key card. So remember, in this instance, the 8 of hearts. And once you've found this card, you're just casually going to separate the cards at this point and cut your second key card so that it's the top card of the deck. Now, on your piece of paper or card, you're just going to note down what you now know the spectator's secret number to be. So in this instance, the number 7. You can then just place that down on the table. Explaining to the spectator that you haven't managed to identify an actual card, you can now ask them to name the secret number. Of course, in this instance, it will be the number 7, and now you can reveal that that's the exact number you've written down. You can now just take the deck and deal down that many cards, so 7 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, placing the final card to the side. And all that's left to do now is to reveal that this card here somehow just happens to be the selected card. In this instance, the 4 of hearts. And there you have it. It may seem like a simple effect, but every time you take control of the outcome, you're building trust in your thinking and yourself. So keep learning, keep performing, and let that belief grow with every step. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.